Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we are exploring a really fascinating connection, I think, between those tiny but mighty micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, and their impact on brain health.
Yeah.
We actually got an article sent in from the journal Nutrients on this topic.
Oh, cool.
And it turns out that even slight imbalances in these micronutrients can play a role in some pretty serious neurological conditions. So
True.
we'll be diving deep into
Yeah.
all of that in this deep dive.
Yeah, it's amazing how much our brains rely on these
Right.
essential nutrients.
Yeah. So in this deep dive, we'll be exploring some conditions you might be familiar with, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, but
Yeah.
also some that you may not have heard of before.
Yeah.
And there will be some aha moments along the way, I guarantee you.
What's really fascinating is that it's not just the deficiencies of micronutrients
Right.
that can cause problems, but also excesses.
Right.
Like too much of a good thing can also be a bad thing,
Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. That's right.
especially when it comes to micronutrients.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's unpack this for those listening who maybe need like a quick refresher. What exactly are micronutrients and why are they so important?
Sure, micronutrients are basically the vitamins and minerals that we get from our diet.
Okay.
Things like vitamin C, zinc, magnesium.
Got it.
And unlike carbs and fats, they don't directly give us energy, but they are crucial for all sorts of reactions that are happening inside of our bodies.
Okay, so they're like the workers behind the scenes,
Exactly.
making sure that everything runs smoothly.
Like the stagehands of a play. You might not see them.
Right.
The show can't go on without them.
Yeah, exactly. And what's kind of sneaky about the whole thing is that symptoms of deficiency can take years to show up, right?
Yeah.
It could be like fatigue or brain fog or something.
Right. And they're very general symptoms, so it's easy to miss.
Right. And the article mentions that the nervous system is actually pretty resilient and it can kind of compensate for these imbalances for a while.
That's why.
But by the time that the noticeable symptoms appear, the damage might already be done.
Yeah, the nervous system can only take so much
Right.
before it starts to break down.
Now, the article even points out that certain health conditions can actually make these deficiencies even worse
Yeah.
because of how our bodies absorb and use those nutrients.
Right.
It's kind of a double whammy.
It is. It is.
They gave a bunch of examples in the article, like people in intensive care, burn victims, people with serious wounds, even those on dialysis,
Right.
just showing how widespread this issue can be.
Yeah, it's something we don't talk about enough.
Right. So now that we've kind of got the basics out of the way, let's dive into some specific conditions, and we'll start with a big one, Alzheimer's disease.
All right, so Alzheimer's is a heartbreaking condition where cognitive function gradually declines over time, and research has shown links between low levels of vitamins A, B, C, D, and E, as well as minerals like selenium, copper, and zinc.
Wow.
And on top of that, high levels of homocysteine seem to play a role as well.
Okay, that is a lot.
It is.
To keep track of, so can you break this down for us a little bit?
Sure.
What is the common thread?
The common thread here is that a lot of these vitamins, like C and E,
Mm-hmm.
are powerful antioxidants.
Okay.
And so we can think of oxidative stress like rusting of the brain.
Oh, okay.
And these vitamins act as like rust protectors.
Okay. I like that analogy. So basically, addressing those deficiencies might help protect brain cells from damage.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you also have the B vitamins, which are crucial for managing homocysteine levels.
Right.
You can think of homocysteine as like traffic building up in your brain's highway.
Okay.
And these B vitamins, they act like traffic cops, clearing the way for smooth signaling.
So it's not just about the brain itself. It's also about maintaining good blood flow and communication within the nervous system.
Exactly right.
Okay.
And high homocysteine levels are also linked to heart problems. So addressing that is a win-win.
It's a win-win. Got it. Okay, let's move on to another one, Parkinson's disease.
Okay.
What's the story there?
So Parkinson's is a neurodegenerative disorder where the brain cells that are responsible for producing dopamine slowly die off. And that leads to those characteristic tremors and movement problems.
Okay, so are we seeing similar micronutrient deficiencies at play here?
There are some overlaps for sure.
Okay.
Research suggests that long-term deficiencies in vitamins A, D, E, B1, and C may contribute to Parkinson's development. And again, oxidative stress and inflammation
Right.
are key culprits in both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it seems like bolstering our defenses against those processes could be crucial for protecting brain health overall.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
All right.
What's the role of micronutrients in this challenging condition?
ALS is a really devastating disease that causes progressive muscle weakness and paralysis.
Right.
And the research on micronutrients in ALS is still ongoing, but vitamins D and E have emerged as potentially important factors.
Okay, what's the link there?
Well, studies have shown that people with ALS tend to have much lower levels of vitamin D compared to healthy individuals.
Hmm.
However, supplementing with vitamin D hasn't definitively shown to improve outcomes just yet.
So more research is needed?
More research is needed.
Okay.
But with vitamin E, it's a different story because vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant.
Right.
And some studies suggest that it might have a protective effect against ALS.
So it seems like vitamin E is emerging as a potential hero in the fight against several neurological conditions.
It certainly seems that way.
All right, let's switch gears for a second and talk about a condition called Wilson's disease.
Okay.
This one seems to be in a category of its own.
You're right. Wilson's disease is a genetic disorder where the body accumulates too much copper,
Okay,
mainly in the liver and the brain.
got it.
And this copper overload can lead to serious neurological and liver problems.
So how do micronutrients fit into this picture? Because it sounds like it's too much of a mineral, not a deficiency.
Right. This is where things get really interesting. So the research suggests that zinc can actually be used to treat Wilson's disease.
Oh, wow.
And it works by competing with copper for absorption in the gut.
So by supplementing with zinc, you can essentially reduce the amount of copper the body takes in and prevent that toxic buildup.
That's exactly right.
That's pretty amazing. It's like using a micronutrient as like a targeted intervention.
It is, and it highlights the potential of using specific micronutrients to address certain health conditions.
That's really cool. Okay, back to autoimmune conditions.
Hi.
We've got myasthenia gravis, which causes muscle weakness and fatigue. What's the connection to micronutrients here?
So as with many autoimmune diseases, research shows that people with myasthenia gravis often have significantly lower levels of vitamin D.
There's that vitamin D again.
Yeah.
It seems to be popping up everywhere. Why does it play such an important role in autoimmune conditions?
Well, vitamin D is crucial for regulating the immune system.
Okay.
And when levels are low, the immune system can become dysregulated, and that potentially can lead to autoimmune diseases like myasthenia gravis.
So could maintaining adequate vitamin D levels help prevent or mitigate these conditions?
That's a great question, and one that researchers are actively investigating.
Okay, and speaking of autoimmune diseases, let's talk about multiple sclerosis, or MS.
Okay.
What's the link between micronutrients and this complex condition?
So MS is a disease where the immune system attacks the protective covering of nerve fibers.
Okay.
And this leads to communication problems between the brain and the body.
Right.
And you guessed it, vitamin D plays a significant role here as well.
Vitamin D, the recurring character in our story.
That's right.
So what's the connection specifically with MS?
Well, research has found a strong link between vitamin D levels and disease activity in MS.
Uh-huh.
And this is likely due to vitamin D's ability to modulate the immune system, keeping it in check.
So getting enough vitamin D could potentially help manage MS symptoms.
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
One study even found that having vitamin D levels above a certain threshold was associated with a lower risk of developing MS in the first place.
Wow.
So while more research is needed, it's certainly an area of great interest.
For sure. Okay, let's move on to another serious health concern, ischemic strokes.
Okay.
These happen when a blood clot blocks an artery supplying blood to the brain,
Right.
causing cell death. What's the role of micronutrients here?
So the relationship between micronutrients and stroke is pretty complex.
Okay.
We've got those B vitamins, especially B6 and folic acid, helping to lower homocysteine levels.
Right.
Remember, that's a risk factor for stroke.
Yeah.
Then we have vitamin C and beta-carotene, powerful antioxidants. They can help protect brain cells from damage.
Got it.
And of course, vitamin D with its anti-inflammatory and neuroprotective properties.
It sounds like we've got a whole team of micronutrients working together to protect the brain.
We do.
That's great. The article also mentioned electrolytes like magnesium and potassium.
Yes.
What's their role?
So magnesium is a neuroprotector, and it helps regulate blood pressure, another crucial factor in stroke risk.
Right.
And potassium is essential for healthy nerve function and a steady heartbeat.
Okay, so making sure we get enough of these micronutrients could be a key part of stroke prevention.
Absolutely. It's definitely one piece of the puzzle.
All right, let's talk about a condition that might be less familiar to some listeners, restless leg syndrome.
Okay.
What's the connection with micronutrients here?
This is a great one to highlight because the link with iron deficiency is very clear and often treatable,
Okay.
unlike some of the other conditions we've discussed.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah.
What's the connection?
So restless leg syndrome is characterized by that irresistible urge to move the legs, often accompanied by uncomfortable sensations.
Right.
And it's thought to be related to problems with dopamine signaling in the brain.
Dopamine, that's the feel-good neurotransmitter.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And here's the key. Iron plays a crucial role in dopamine production.
So if someone has low iron levels, it could contribute to restless leg syndrome.
Yes, that's right. And the good news is that addressing the iron deficiency can often significantly improve or even completely resolve the symptoms.
That's really encouraging. It's great to hear about a condition where there's such a clear link and a potential solution.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of looking at the whole picture when it comes to neurological health.
Before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, are there any other conditions where certain micronutrients stand out?
Well, we should briefly touch on peripheral neuropathies.
Okay.
These are conditions that affect the nerves outside of the brain and spinal cord,
Okay.
causing pain, numbness, tingling, and weakness, often in the hands and feet.
Are there any particular micronutrients that are especially important for nerve health?
Yes, the B vitamins are crucial here, especially B1, B6, and B12.
Okay.
B1 helps with energy production in nerve cells.
Mm.
B6 is involved in neurotransmitter metabolism.
Uh-huh.
And B12 is essential for the formation and maintenance of that protective myelin sheath surrounding nerve fibers.
It seems like those B vitamins are truly the unsung heroes of the nervous system.
They really are.
Yeah, and we can't forget about sarcopenia, which, while not strictly a neurological condition, is closely related to muscle health and function.
Good point.
That's something we all need to be aware of as we age.
Yes.
What role do micronutrients play in sarcopenia?
So sarcopenia is the loss of muscle mass and strength that often comes with aging, and B vitamins, particularly B12,
Okay.
and vitamin D are both important for maintaining muscle function.
So getting enough of those nutrients could help preserve muscle mass as we get older.
It's definitely something to consider.
Okay, great. And remember, a holistic approach to health, including a balanced diet and appropriate supplementation when needed, is key for supporting all aspects of our well-being, including neurological health.
That's right.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Before we move on to the importance of diet and supplementation on our next part, I want to emphasize we're not saying micronutrients are the sole cause of these neurological conditions. It's much more complex than that.
You're absolutely right. These conditions are incredibly intricate, and multiple factors are at play, including genetics, lifestyle choices, and environmental exposures.
Right.
However, it's becoming increasingly clear that micronutrients play a crucial role, one that's often overlooked.
Exactly, and that's why it's so important to be aware of these connections.
Yes.
We'll be back in just a moment to continue our deep dive. Stay tuned.
All right. Welcome back to our deep dive into micronutrients and the brain.
All right, we've explored a whole bunch of neurological conditions and their links to specific micronutrients. It's kind of a lot to take in.
It is.
So can we maybe step back for a second, just highlight some of the key takeaways?
Sure.
What are the big picture things you want our listeners to remember from all this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So if we look at all these conditions, a few common threads emerge. One is oxidative stress.
Okay.
That imbalance between free radicals, which are kind of like the little troublemakers in the body,
Right.
and antioxidants, which are the peacekeepers.
Okay, so it's like this constant battle going on within our cells.
Exactly. And oxidative stress is implicated in so many of these conditions.
Hmm.
Then we have neuroinflammation,
Okay.
which is the brain's natural response to injury or infection.
Right.
But when it becomes chronic, it can cause real damage to brain cells.
And we can't forget about aging.
Right? Aging is a natural process. But as we get older, our cells become less efficient at repairing damage,
Right.
and we become more susceptible to that oxidative stress and inflammation.
It's like everything starts to wear down a bit
It's true.
over time.
And then, of course, there's that consistent theme of low micronutrient levels.
Yeah.
While they might not be the sole cause of these conditions, they certainly play a crucial supporting role.
Yeah, it's like if you have a weak link in a chain,
Exactly.
it makes the whole structure more vulnerable.
Exactly. And building on that elevated homocysteine levels,
Right.
which we talked about earlier,
Uh-huh.
are another factor to consider. High homocysteine is linked to heart problems,
Yeah.
but it can also contribute to those neurological issues.
Right. So it really is about addressing all of these factors, the oxidative stress, the inflammation, aging, homocysteine levels, and micronutrient deficiencies to kind of create the best possible environment for our brains.
Precisely. That's a holistic approach looking at the big picture.
Yeah, the conclusion of this article really got me thinking.
Oh, yeah.
It said that while the clinical effects of taking micronutrient supplements can be hard to measure,
Right.
the consequences of serious and prolonged deficiencies are undeniable.
That's such an important point.
It is, and it makes you wonder, could addressing those subtle deficiencies, the ones that haven't even caused noticeable symptoms yet,
Yeah.
could that be the key to preventing or at least reducing the risk of some of these conditions down the road?
It's like playing catch up once the symptoms appear.
Yeah,
But what if we could get ahead of the game by addressing those imbalances before they become major problems?
exactly. It's an area that definitely warrants more research.
It does.
And it really highlights how important it is to just pay attention to our nutritional status. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about how we can actually make sure we're getting enough of these vital micronutrients.
Okay.
The article emphasizes the importance of a nutrient-dense diet as like the foundation.
Food first, always.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. Just incorporating more fruits and vegetables into your daily routine can go a long way.
It's amazing how powerful those simple everyday choices can be.
It really is. And once you've got that solid foundation with a healthy diet, then you can consider targeted supplementation if needed.
Okay.
Of course, it's always best to chat with your doctor or a registered dietitian
Right?
to figure out what's right for you.
Great advice. Do you have any personal experience with supplementation?
I do. I live in a place where we don't get a lot of sunshine in the winter, so I take vitamin D3.
Okay.
And I also find magnesium bisglycinate helpful for sleep and muscle relaxation.
Interesting. It's great that you're taking a proactive approach to supporting your own neurological health.
I try my best.
Now, I know we've talked a lot about deficiencies, but I'm curious, are there any risks associated with getting too much of certain micronutrients? Could there be a downside to like over-supplementing?
That's a great question. And it's really important to be mindful of this. While micronutrients are essential, more isn't always better.
Right.
Some vitamins like A and D are fat soluble, which means they can build up in the body
Okay.
and potentially cause problems if you take too much.
So it's like anything else, moderation is key.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to work with a healthcare professional
Right.
who can help you determine the right dosage for your specific needs.
Okay. That makes sense. So we've covered the importance of diet and supplementation.
Yeah.
What are some other lifestyle factors that can impact brain health?
Well, exercise is incredibly important. Regular physical activity increases blood flow to the brain,
Okay.
which helps deliver those essential nutrients and oxygen.
Right.
It also stimulates the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor,
Yeah.
BDNF,
Okay.
which is like fertilizer for brain cells.
So exercise is good for both our bodies and our minds.
Absolutely. And sleep is another crucial factor.
Okay.
During sleep, our brains clear out waste products and consolidate memories. Not getting enough quality sleep can have a significant impact on cognitive function.
It's like our brains need that downtime to recharge and reset.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's stress management.
Right.
Chronic stress can be really damaging to the brain. It can increase inflammation and impair cognitive function.
Yeah. So finding healthy ways to manage stress, whether it's through exercise or meditation or spending time in nature, is really important.
Absolutely. It's all about taking a holistic approach and addressing all these different aspects of our lives.
This has been a really enlightening deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
I know.
But it's clear that the connection between micronutrients and brain health is multifaceted, incredibly important.
I agree. And the research is constantly evolving, so there's always more to learn.
Before we wrap up, I want to remind our listeners that we have other episodes on the channel
We do.
that go into more depth on specific micronutrients.
Yes.
If you're interested in learning more about vitamin D, magnesium, or any of the other nutrients we discussed today,
Right.
be sure to check those out.
And if you're considering making any changes to your diet or starting any new supplements, please talk to your doctor or a registered dietitian to make sure it's safe and appropriate for you.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of micronutrients and neurological health. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey of discovery.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you found it as fascinating as we did.
Until next time, take care and stay curious.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I can't help but think about, like, the future of all this, where this is all headed.
Yeah, what's really fascinating to me is the potential for personalized medicine in this area.
Oh, interesting. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. So imagine a future where, we can analyze an individual's micronutrient profile
Okay.
and pinpoint those subtle deficiencies before they even cause like noticeable symptoms.
So instead of waiting for problems to arise,
Yeah.
we could proactively address those imbalances and potentially prevent some of these conditions
Exactly.
from even developing.
Yeah, it's like having a customized nutritional roadmap for brain health.
That's a great way to put it. It makes you wonder if, like, in the future, people will just be getting regular micronutrient panels.
Yeah.
Like they get blood work done now.
I wouldn't be surprised at all as our understanding of these connections grows. I think we're going to see a lot more emphasis on these personalized approaches to neurological health, with micronutrients playing a central role.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Exactly.
If we can identify these subtle imbalances early on and address them, we might be able to just drastically reduce the risk of developing some of these conditions later in life.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power. The more we understand about this, intricate dance between micronutrients in our brains, the better equipped we are to take charge of, our own well-being.
Well said. I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the importance of these tiny but mighty nutrients.
Yeah, me too. It's been a fascinating exploration.
It has, and I hope it inspires, everyone listening to take a closer look at their own diet and think about, how they can optimize their micronutrient intake for a healthier and happier brain.
Absolutely. Food is medicine.
Food is medicine.
Choose wisely.
Choose wisely, nourish your brain, and stay curious. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
Until next time.